And we are live in the house with Evan Brand and Dr. J here. Today we're going to be talking about estrogen.
Your mic just cut out. I heard you, and then now I can't hear you at all.
Oh,
Now I got it. It sounds like it switched over to your headset.
you got me now?
Yep, that's perfect right there.
All right, we'll redo that intro here and I'll clip it. Let me make sure I got it here. Sounding good though?
Yeah, sounds great now. It went silent and then it switched to a headset. Now it sounds
Oh,
good.
okay, cool. All right, here we go. Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here with Evan Brand. Today we're going to be talking about all things estrogen dominance with histamine. Is the histamine in your environment from mold, from allergens, from gut bacteria, from anything else? Is it impacting your hormones and causing your hormones to be out of balance? Evan, my friend, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. And this is a huge topic too, because I've seen girls in their 20s, I've seen girls even in their teenagers years that have issues with not only PMS, but they're already battling estrogen issues and they're having allergies. They're being put on Claritin or even more intense antihistamine medication. And the reality is, a lot of these girls that we see, so primarily we're talking to girls today, men,
Mhm.
this can affect you as well. You can certainly have a histamine issue, but this issue is more common in ladies just because of your cycle, just because of the ups and downs that's happening with your histamine and your estrogen. They play into each other. And there's some papers that we looked at today before we hit record about histamine and how histamine can signal the ovaries to produce even more estrogen. Meaning,
Mm.
if you're already estrogen dominant, that could mean you're having inflammation, PMS, bloating, brain fog, headaches, allergic reactions, fatigue. When that happens and the histamine levels are high, well, the histamine tells the ovaries, hey, make even more estrogen. And so this thing goes out of control. And then if you factor in gut issues, which so many people have because the food supply is contaminated with pesticides, if you're not eating organic, you went to a birthday party this weekend, you ate the conventional strawberries, you had pesticide exposure, you damaged the bacteria in your gut. The gut microbiome plays a role in this as well. And so this is all connected, but it can make your day to day life pretty miserable. And your allergist, even your endocrinologist, is likely not going to help you get to the root cause of this.
100%. And then again, there's different parts of the cycle where symptoms are going to be potentially worse in regards to histamine. So you could have more brain fog, you could have more irritability, you could have more flashing or flushing because estrogen primes your mast cells. And so your mast cells are your basophils in your blood. When your basophils go out of the blood into the tissue, they become mast cells and they can produce histamine. And it can produce histamine in regards to inflammation. It can produce histamine in regards to dysbiotic bacteria. So if you have SIBO or bacterial overgrowth, dysbiosis, that can produce histamine. And so it can stimulate the ovaries, right? Histamine can stimulate the ovaries to produce more estrogen. And then that high estrogen down regulates diamine oxidase, DAO. And that's a gut derived enzyme that breaks down histamine. So you see this vicious cycle, right? Estrogen primes more mast cells, more histamine then stimulates more estrogen release, right? So that stimulates more estrogen dominance. That throws off the progesterone estrogen ratio. Progesterone is antihistamine. And then you have this down regulation in DAO in the gut. And so now your ability to break it down in the gut's off. And then let's say you're eating, like Evan said, glyphosate or processed carbohydrate, too much acellular carbs, grains. Now that screws up the gut bacteria, creates dysbiosis. And now that dysbiotic bacteria, right, the citrobacteria, the Klebsiella, the Morganella, the H. pylori, the Proteus, that's going to stimulate more histamine production in the gut.
Yeah. And you can measure the gut bacteria with a simple at home stool test. We do this on everyone. This is part of our standard workup. So if you go to your allergist and you describe PMS, you describe, maybe you go to your GP, right? Or you go to your endocrinologist, they're likely just going to put you on birth control or they're going to prescribe maybe a Claritin or some other type of histamine blocker. We just want to point out your issues are not a deficiency of birth control pills. Your issues are not a deficiency of allergy medication. Your issues have likely been brewing since you were a child. If you had mold exposure as a child, if your mother passed mold toxin through the placenta or through breast milk to you, you could have been 9, 10, 11 years old already dealing with hormonal imbalances. Now, as you age, you get into your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. These issues only get worse if you're not creating a protocol to remove these toxins from your body and fix the microbiome, which is disrupting your hormonal balance. If you go to your hormone doctor and they put you on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, is that a good idea? It may help your symptoms, but it's not root cause. It's not fixing the gut. You're not going to go and take estrogen cream or whatever, and all of a sudden you're going to fix your gut. So you really, really, really need a stool test. That is like, if I could only pick one test to fix your hormones, I would literally pick a stool test over a hormone test to fix your hormones, which sounds crazy, but we see so much disruption in the practice in the gut microbiome. And we know that by improving the gut balance, by improving the gut bacteria, and by fixing a key enzyme called beta glucuronidase, we can get the hormones to work better. And with adaptogenic herbs that we almost always factor into the protocol, this goes very, very well. And I know you do some hormone support as well. You do adaptogenic herbs, you'll do pregnenolone, you'll do some DHEA. But what if you
Progesterone too. Progesterone.
but what if you just did that and you did nothing else? Do you think you could fix these issues, or do you need to go beyond that?
You talking about just dealing with the gut?
I'm talking about if you were to just give people pregnenolone, you said progesterone, DHEA, if you were to just do that and completely ignore the gut, could you fix hormonal symptoms alone?
If they have a lot of gut dysfunction and a large amount of histamine is coming from the gut, no. I mean, you can. There's definitely palliative things that you can do, but if there's never just one root cause. People come in and they're like, "Oh, I want to get to the root cause," and it's like, well, like in year one, that may have been the root cause, but other systems have been damaged. So now, yeah, you have to fix that, but also this and this and this, and now you live in a moldy home, and so there becomes a lot of root issues. So yeah, I would say you're always going to have to fix the gut, especially if there's gut dysfunction at a high percent at the root.
Yep. Yep. And this can be done worldwide. So don't think like, oh, I'm stuck in this little small town. There's no doctors that can help me here. How do I even get my doctor to look at this?
Correct.
That's what we're here for. That's why we do 100% telemedicine for the last decade plus. Like, this is not hard to do. And within 3 months, you can make a huge difference with these symptoms, because the gut, I would say on average, expect about 6 weeks to clear a gut infection. So if there's a bacteria, a
At least.
fungal, a yeast, a parasitic issue, expect 6 weeks. So don't expect overnight success, but within a few months, I think we could do a lot of good for you.
Yeah, I agree. And the conventional medication that's going to be given, and again, for women who are dealing with this, right, you may notice more symptoms at ovulation because that's where your estrogen starts to peak, right? And your progesterone starts to come up. You may also have a lot of symptoms at the luteal phase, right? In the middle of that luteal phase, right? That's where a lot of migraines can happen. That 1 week before you menstruate, that's where progesterone can drop out prematurely. And that's where that estrogen dominance can increase. That's where you can have more migraines and breast tenderness and brain fog and irritability. And then, of course, like if you start getting more perimenopausal, you may start having more hormonal symptoms throughout the month as if you're menopausal, like the hot flashes. And again, histamine is going to aggravate the hot flashes because histamine can do that, right? That vasodilation, that sensitivity. A lot of people who are sensitive to histamine issues can be sensitive to the sun. They can get the wheals or rashes or itchy just from the sunlight. Sunlight can do that as well. And so it's important to get to the root. Now, when we talk about the gut and we talk about the root cause, the HPA access can also be a big issue, right? This is a neuroendocrine issue too. So what happens is I'm going to keep it simple, but histamine gets released. It binds to H1 receptors in your brains. There's a compound called, I'm not going to get too complicated, but it's phosphinoinositide, and that signals GnRH, gonadotropic releasing hormone in the hypothalamus, which talks to the pituitary to make LH and FSH, which talks to the ovaries to stimulate more estradiol. That's how that's happening. So this is an HPA-G axis issue, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, gonadal issue. So when we work downstream on the hormones, you also have to make sure you're dealing with the brain. The brain is really important because that axis, it's like your thermostat over here getting out of whack, where you want it to go cooler, you set it for cool, but then the heat goes on, right? The wires get crossed at the neuroendocrine level. And that's important that we use adaptogens to work on that. And we also get the inflammation and the stress under control as well.
Yeah, question came in here. Detoxing from mycotoxins with binders after taking itraconazole, that's an antifungal, for 6 months, 4 months in with binders, and feel like I have more brain fog. Is this a detox reaction? Well, yeah, it could be. And it depends on how much you're detoxing. So that is the art of these protocols that we create, is how much can we do without making someone worse. Years ago, just for fun, I took 8 capsules of a binder product. This is a blend of clay and charcoal. And I just wanted to see, okay, like if binders are good, then more is better, right? Well, I took 8 capsules and I was dizzy for like 3 days. I could barely move without getting vertigo. So there can be too much in regards to your protocol. So itraconazole and binders alone, that's not a protocol that's going to get you better. You need a full comprehensive protocol that can include various strains of probiotics that are low in histamine, that may include some mast cell stabilizing nutrients, that may include some liver and adrenal support. Thyroid is going to be factored in as well. So there's a lot of factors. So you can't just bind, you can't just use detox support and expect to get better. I know that would be really sexy and really easy years ago. I think this is like when TikTok Shop first started. There was like a detox tea that went viral, and it sounded really cool. It's like, just drink this tea and you're going to detox
Mm.
your body, but it just doesn't work that way. There's gut mechanisms involved as well. And so, this is why when we look at your stool, we're not just detoxing what we see on your toxic metals or chemicals or mold profiles. We're looking at the gut and factoring that in as well, because if you have pre existing dysbiosis, that has to be addressed in some fashion before you go and detox someone, or you're going to make them feel worse. It's the equivalent of overloading the trash can, but the garbage man hasn't shown up, and you're just continuing to try and stuff stuff in that garbage can. It's like, if you don't fix glucuronidation pathway, you're going to make people worse.
100%. And guys listening, they're also going to be impacted because we see so many guys that have too much insulin. They're insulin resistant. They're upregulating the aromatase enzyme, and the aromatase is increasing estrogen, and the estrogen is stimulating the mast cells to make more histamine. And so guys are still at play, even though women tend to make more estrogen throughout the month, especially in that first week of the cycle. And then they have this big increase at ovulation, and then they have a drop, but another increase the last half of the cycle. And if they have low progesterone too, then they're a histamine secreting machine that can make a lot of issues. But guys, if you're eating a lot of processed food, a lot of consuming your water in plastics, and too much insulin, not getting enough movement, then you can really be upregulating aromatase and making more of that estrogen, which stimulates those mast cells.
And this has gotten worse since the virus. This has gotten worse since
Mhm.
the injections. And so, yes, there are more people suffering with this. So, if y'all are hearing this today and you're like, well, why? Why is this like every female walking around is so irritable and on edge? This is why. It's the combination of all this.
Correct. And then the conventional medicine ways to deal with that are typically going to be H1 or H2 blockers. So H1 are going to be like your Claritin, right? That's your loratadine. Or it's going to be then you have Allegra as well, or Zyrtec, which are going to be other H1 alternatives. And then you have your H2. H2 are going to be your acid blockers. So that's like your Pepcid AC, right? Or Zantac, right? Pepcid AC or Antac are going to be the big ones that block your H2 histamine. Again, if you need that palliatively short term, it's fine, but it's not getting to the root cause. Again, we don't want to be anti medication. We just want to be pro root cause. And when you're pro root cause, it's hard to hyper focus on using these medications long term. You want to really get to the root cause. And then you have like these mast cell suppressors like chromalin that are also on that list. And like the person that talked about using the itraconazole, Evan and I, and I'll speak for myself probably first, I think Evan's on the same page. We tend to be more biased towards using herbals first. There's a lot of good benefits of the herbs in regards to having a lot of antioxidants, in regards to suppressing a lot of biofilms, which a lot of the medications don't touch. And we can use other herbs to synergize, right? Things like berberine and artemisia tend to have a synergetic effect. We make things that work on the lymphatic as well that are synergistic. And so there's a lot of different herbs that we like and that we tend to use over the medications. And if we use a medication, we're probably going to use it in conjunction of the herbs. I would never just do a medication standalone.
Yeah, well said. And I got into a
Do you
debate years
agree?
ago.
Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I debated some medical docs years ago about like antifungal medication, and they said, "Oh, there's no way you're going to fix a problem like this without itraconazole, fluconazole." I have so many before and after organic
Yeah,
acids proving the herbs work. So we have an
correct.
amazing success rate, and arguably even a better success rate than the pharmaceuticals, because you're not seeing the resistance that you're seeing in pharmaceuticals that you are with the natural meds. So said
Correct.
another way, there's so many unique terpenes and alkaloids and things in the
Yes,
plants
correct.
that even the CDC admits we're in the post antibiotic era now, meaning we really do need to lean on more natural meds that have far, far more unique structures in the way that they attack the infection load.
100%. So the big thing we're going to look at is you got to fix the gut. The gut's going to be a big deal. Um, you got to lower the estrogen. So we may have poor detoxification, but that does not mean, like Evan talked about, oh, you just do this detox tea. One of the biggest things we can do is just drink good, clean water that's filtered with good electrolytes. Make sure you're digesting your protein and your fats because that's going to be how your body makes the amino acids, gets the amino acids to make your glutathione and make your phase one, phase two work. Also, good fats help trigger your gallbladder to release bile. And a lot of toxins go through your gallbladder from your gut out into your stool. And so if we're not consuming good fats, we're not going to be stimulating that good bile production. And we may have to be more on a lower histamine diet. So that may mean we're not able to eat bacon for a bit. We may have to eat more fresh meats. We may have to avoid, any pepperoni, cheese, teas, coffee. We may have to be a little bit more citrus fruits, kombucha, anything smoked, right? Smoked salmon. We may have to be a little bit more strict on that out of the gate to kind of get that inflammation and get that histamine down. And again, usually it's the inflammation that stimulates the immune cells, that stimulates the histamine. And then if we add the estrogen in there and dysbiosis, everything accelerates. And then we haven't even talked about, what about if we live in a moldy environment? What if we also have low progesterone as well as too much estrogen? Like all these things, just like they're like force multipliers in the wrong direction, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And your family is probably not going to understand and or support your issues. And so please don't think like my family thinks I'm crazy. This is all in my head. I was told by a psychiatrist that I just need to be on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety. We've heard all this stuff. We've heard this story over and over again. This is not an issue that an anti-anxiety med is going to fix. This is not an issue an antidepressant is going to fix. Now, sure, you can have depression, you can have anxiety that may be modified by those drugs, but it's basically you putting duct tape over the check engine light on your dashboard.
Correct. And a lot of families, they just want to outsource it to the MD. Hey, you're on the loratadine, right? You're on the Zantac or Pepcid. All right, we're done. Right. That's it. It's like, well, if you understand how that is just putting, like Evan just said, duct tape over the check engine light, you would never do that in your car, ever, right? Your husband would be like, absolutely not. You're going to destroy the engine, right? You got to get to the root cause. And so it's easy when you're not suffering and you feel the effect that, yeah, I'm having side effects. These medications aren't quite working. You know that you want to go deeper. And so this is not in your head, even though a lot of times conventional docs may make you feel that way. It's not. And so always continue to ask the question, how do we get to the root cause? That's key.
Yeah, well said. Well, this is a quick one because I got to run and jump on a
Mhm.
call, but I want to give people the opportunity to reach out and just know that we're here for you. We have empathy for this situation and
Yes.
it can be better. But if you don't recognize yourself, if you have irritability, you're going off on your kids, or maybe you don't even have kids and you're just like bitter to the world, screw everything. If you have that mentality, there is probably something wrong. I felt very deep in the rabbit hole many, many times in my life with different things I've been through suffering. And sometimes you question, will I ever get better? Am I just stuck like this? Is this just my personality? Am I just a grump? Am I just irritable? Am I just anxious? Am I just depressed? Think of those as clues of dysfunction. Don't identify with those. So if you feel that depression or you've been slapped with that label of you have this anxiety disorder, okay, fine. Okay, take your label and then use that label, that little whatever the doctor gave you, use that label you're slapped with and use that as motivation. Put it up on your wall and use it as motivation that I'm going to beat this thing by getting to the root cause. How simple.
I love that. That makes total sense. And again, when you're listening to this, there's a lot of underlying mechanisms here. Histamine's one mechanism. There can be other things going on here as well, especially with the gut. You could also be living in a moldy environment. We won't go deep into what to do, but you have to address that mold and you have to do it holistically so you don't create more toxins in the process. Anything else you want to highlight, Evan, before we wrap up?
Yeah, we'll put some links in the show notes too. I've got some candles that you can burn for mold. We've got some binders that you could use. We've got some histamine support. We've both got some adrenal adaptogens. So just check your show notes wherever you're listening to this, and you'll be able to support the show, support the mission, but most importantly, support your health. And so these are some low hanging fruits that you can get dialed in now. Maybe you don't have the ability to do the labs right now or the consults. At least you can get some baseline things to help stabilize your condition. And then when you're ready to dig deeper, reach out to Dr. J at justinhealth.com or myself at evanbrand.com and let us know. We'll be able to help you.
I love it. Very good. All right, Evan, if you want to jump off, you can. evanbrand.com, drj.com. I'll riff on a couple more things, and then we'll be back in next week, Evan.
All right,
Sound
good
good,
to
brother?
chat, man.
All right, you take care. Have a good one, man. Bye. All right, guys. So I'm going to keep on riffing here a little bit. So if we deal with any mold issues, right? What's like the first thing we can do with mold? And again, histamine also can be an allergy issue. So get a really good high quality HEPA filter for your home. HEPA filters in the filter down to point 0.3 microns. It's either zero point 0.3 or 0.03, depending on what kind of HEPA you get. So that's going to filter out a lot of the allergens, the pollens, the potential molds from outside. Now, we could have mold and water damage inside from wet drywall, wet hardwood. All those things could be at play too. So you want to look at if there's an inside vector. Most common inside vector is just you have high humidity. And so you need a really good dehumidifier. Get the dehumidifier down, filter out the particulate. That gets you 80 to 90% of the way there, assuming we don't have any other water infiltration from a leaky pipe, a pipe bursting, or some kind of water damage that happened and wasn't cleaned appropriately, or they let the water sit too long. And then next thing we can do is we can do some testing as well. We can do at least some plate testing is great because it's cost effective, not too expensive, and you can get a window of what's in the air. And then outside of the testing, we use an essential oil dry fog that works wonderful. It encapsulates, denatures the mold, natural. You don't get a lot of secondary metabolites, creates a thick fog instead of 5 to 10 micron level that can really lower the mold particulate, which is great. So if you're sensitive, people that do like, ozone or other treatments, they could be a little bit reactive to the secondary metabolites from those products, but with the essential oils tend to be a little bit better and more natural. I'll put some links down below for recommended products that we use on that front. And again, the natural herbs that we're going to use on the histamine side, we're going to fix the hormone imbalances. So that may be detoxifying estrogen, maybe supporting healthy progesterone. It's going to be working on supporting the HPA-G axis. So there's different herbs that we may use for that, whether it's white peony or ammonia, ashwagandha. Thing is like Vitex, chase tree, maca. It's a lot of different herbs that we use to help support that, and also how we cycle progesterone throughout the month, and then also supporting good adrenal function, especially if we have low DHEA or low cortisol and low pregnenolone. Those can all be signs that our hormonal stress system is weaker. And so we have to really look at the root cause of that as well. And then again, our natural antihistamines are going to be things like quercetin, bromelain, stinging nettle. And again, those are going to still be like a Band-Aid. They're not going to fix the underlying issue, but I see them as a better solution than being on allergy medications long term. The only time I recommend allergy medications long term is if you truly can't function, like you're really having a hard time functioning, then hey, I'm okay with the medication as long as you're actively searching to get to the root cause. So as long as you have the right mindset, I'm okay with it. I'm not anti-medication, I'm just pro root cause. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, put your comments down below. I just want to give you a little more info. We'll put links for some of the products as well. And then again, I'll put a link here from my Amazon store, but there's some products I just don't sell. But if you go to justinhealth.com/store, STORE, you'll see some of my Amazon products there for like a dehumidifier, for like some air filters, for some of the mold plate testings are there as well. And just some simple stuff you can do to get your home environment better, especially with, a lot of the pollens and everything blooming out there and wanting to have a higher quality air filtration and the humidity going higher, getting that down. So there'll be links there for you. And I'll put links down below as a pinned comment and in the comment section below. All right, guys, have an awesome day. And if you enjoyed today's content, evanbrand.com, reach out to Evan worldwide. And again, myself, Dr. J at justinhealth.com. We're here to help you out, here to get to the root cause. This is not in your head. It's real. And there's underlying physiological things that we can do to get to the root. All right, guys, if you enjoyed it, let me know.